Steve stumbled down the dirt path, bruises already forming on his face and body. He held his side where one of the attackers had hit him with something hard. His hands shook as he took out his phone to call for help. But he realized they had also stolen his money and he had nothing left, not even credit. Feeling helpless and alone, Steve wondered if this was how his life was going to be forever. Working low-wage jobs just to barely survive and then getting mugged on his way home. Suddenly, Steve felt someone grab him from behind, pulling him into a nearby alley. He turned around to face his attacker, but the stranger had a calm expression on his face. "Are you okay?" the stranger asked, concern evident in his tone. Steve wasn't sure what to say. However, he quickly concluded that he could use some help. "Please, I need medical help." The stranger looked him up and down before nodding his head. "All right then, let's get you somewhere safe first. My name is Mr. Johnson. Follow me." Steve felt cautious, but he didn't have much of a choice. He followed Mr. Johnson, who led him out of the alley and towards a limousine parked on the curb. They got in the car, and Steve was immediately struck by the luxury of the interior. This is amazing. Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson." Mr. Johnson waved it off. "Don't mention it. You're safe now, that's what matters." After a short ride, they arrived at a large mansion. Steve had never seen anything like it in his life. Mr. Johnson opened the door and ushered Steve inside. Once inside, Steve was amazed to see that the mansion was even more luxurious than the car. He was given a hot meal and a warm bed to sleep in, something he had not experienced in years. Over the course of the next few weeks, Steve got to know Mr. Johnson more. He was a wealthy businessman who owned a multinational corporation. Mr. Johnson was impressed by Steve's intelligence and work ethic, and he offered him a job at his company. Steve couldn't believe his luck. He went from being beaten and robbed to having a high-paying job and living in a mansion. However, he couldn't help feeling that something was off about the man who saved him. Mr. Johnson seemed too perfect, too generous. But Steve ignored those doubts, and he worked hard at his job. He came up with a new product that revolutionized the market, and soon the whole world knew his name. Steve was swept up in the fame and fortune, but he couldn't ignore the growing feeling that something was wrong. He watched as Mr. Johnson's behavior became erratic and controlling. Steve began to have nightmares, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was in danger. One night, Steve decided to do some investigating. He sneaked into Mr. Johnson's private office and found a journal detailing the businessman's involvement in a cult. Steve was horrified, but he knew he had to act fast. He gathered all the evidence he could find and planned to escape the mansion the next day. However, the cult members caught him trying to escape, and they brought him before their leader. Steve was shocked when he realized that Mr. Johnson was at the head of the cult. He was the one who wanted to sacrifice Steve to achieve immortality. Just as Steve was about to be sacrificed, there was a commotion. The cult members were distracted, and Steve felt himself being pulled away. He opened his eyes to see Mr. Johnson fighting off the cult members with a gun. Together, Steve and Mr. Johnson fought their way out of the mansion and escaped with their lives. Steve was grateful to Mr. Johnson for saving him, but he knew he could never forget what he had been through. He used his newfound wealth to start an organization dedicated to stopping cults like the one he had encountered. Steve realized that his rags-to-riches story had only been made possible by Mr. Johnson, and he knew he could never forget what Johnson had done for him, even if he believed something was still off about the businessman. But with the dawn of a new life, and a purpose, Steve was sure he'd improve the world.